This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFLTV. It's Monday morning. Let's timestamp it here, 11:10. Joined by Gareth A.Davies. How are you, mate?
I'm good. You're 10 minutes late.
No. I've been waiting for you for 7 minutes.
Well, there you go.
How are you, first of all?
I'm good, thank you. Very interesting time in the sport at the moment. An awful lot going on, and a few things played out at the weekend that have caused a bit of news over in Japan, in Vegas, in Nottingham, and no doubt you will ask me why people are disagreeing on certain things. One notably, Mr. Edward Hearn, who's making a lot of noise about his guy Akhmadaliev, the brilliant bantamweight fighter.
Right, we'll come on to that situation in a minute. Nottingham. Obviously the couple of highlights from Nottingham was obviously Dalton Smith's very comfortable one-round win over a Weezer to clinch the European title. What do you think for Dalton Smith this year, Gareth? A lot of big names. Frank Smith mentioned that he'd like to see Dalton Smith in. We don't know the reality of those coming a possibility. Um, we've heard from Hearn that offers for
Adam Azim.
Adam Azim.
Mm.
So, I mean, look, it's not getting boring, but I kind of got bored at the end of fight week of talking about Adam Azim to Dalton Smith. He clearly didn't want to talk about him. Um, but it's an interesting year for Dalton Smith. He's very confident that Hearn will secure him a world title shot. We know it's boxing, and we don't know that that's definitely going to happen, but that's his aim this year. He's won everything else. So now a world title challenge at some point in 2025 could be and probably should be a possibility for Dalton Smith.
Yeah, it could be a possibility in 2020. I think there's also talk of him fighting the winner of Alberto Puello, who's the WBC champion at the moment, with Devin Haney in champion in recess. Um, he's obviously fighting Sandor Martin. Both of those guys, whoever wins that, match up well with Dalton. Dalton could go very well against those guys. I think the Adam Azim fight for him is probably, given where he is now. I was just looking before we came on air. He's 12 with WBO, Tio Lopez's title, 13 with the IBF, Richardson Hitchens, and 2 with the WBC. So that's where, he's making his lines of inquiry up to the belt at the moment. I think he's probably Adam Azim is a fight he would no doubt want to take, but in a way, he's headed up there, and Azim is still gathering momentum. Obviously, he's got Sergei Lipinets on this Saturday night at where is it? Wembley.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah. So in a way, Dalton Smith doesn't need the fight with Adam Azim at the moment. We would all love to see it, but I think they'll meet down the line when one of them's got a world title. Um, we can forego the chats about Adam Azim not being ready yet, because he probably is ready. But Dalton Smith, I think, is a big favourite in that right now. So, and they're building Adam very carefully. Still a very young man, a very talented young man as well. Dalton Smith, I thought you and I spoke about this in the build-up last week. I think his opponent didn't look like he was coming to become his nemesis. He didn't look like he had the confidence to take Dalton. Dalton's very strong now, very powerful, very confident. He's been like that for about a year and ready for world level opponents. So there's that division is talent rich. He's probably not ready himself for a Tio Lopez right now. It's a fight I'd love to see, though. Love to see that fight. Um, weirdly, Dalton's ranked above by BoxRec. He's ranked above Josh Taylor in the UK right now. You've got, I think he's ranked below Adam Azim as well, who's 2. Jack Catterall 1, I think this is right. Josh Taylor's 4, and I think Dalton's 3. Not that we have to go on what BoxRec think, but I found that fascinating. There's some brilliant fights for him, basically, in the 140 division. Brilliant fights everywhere you look. Domestically, he's obviously got British, Commonwealth, and European. He's done those belts now, done the traditional way, which his father Grant will have wanted him to do. And now it is time for a genuine top 10 opponent.
Just finishing off on Dalton Smith, Eddie spoke to Colin at IFL over the last few days, and he said that Ben Shalom wanted Adam Azim on the Eubank Ben card. There was 3 fights apparently offered for Adam Azim, one being obviously Dalton Smith, one being Pierce O'Leary, and one being Sean McComb. All were turned down by Azim's team. What do you think of that?
Well, if it's true, it's a pity, because it would have been amazing to see Adam Azim and Dalton Smith on the Tottenham Hotspur, April 26th, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Chris Eubank, Conor Benn event. It would have been a brilliant addition to the night. It would have been probably co-main event, chief support event. I'd love to have seen it on that, in front of 60,000 people just before Benn and Eubank walked. Look, you're playing devil's advocate. They've decided that, as I said just now, that they don't want Adam Azim's ascendancy to be derailed by Dalton Smith right now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with someone not being quite ready for another opponent with not enough on the line. If they were being offered a few million for the fight, then no doubt they would have taken it, because that's what prize fighters should do. But the title's on the line. I think we'll have to wait for one of them to own a world title before they meet in the ring, and I think that's what will play out.
Just a quick note on Nottingham before we wrap up on Nottingham. Obviously, Courtney very impressive in her fight, but also Connor Walker with an absolutely stunning British and Commonwealth title win, where he was down in the fight and came back into it to knock out Harry Scarf, who was the reigning champion at that time.
Yeah, first on Ellie Scottney, another fantastic performance by her, tough as boots and talks so well. I loved her post-fight interview saying she's desperate for the undisputed. I think she's calling out Sky Nicholson at the moment, isn't she? Wants a fight with Sky Nicholson. That's a terrific fight. Love to see that. Look, the Connor Walker's performance coming from behind to stop Harry Scarf was dramatic, theatric, and it's one of the reasons we love boxing, is that when you've got a puncher against a boxer, Walker was never going to outbox Harry Scarf. And he was horribly brilliant, winning those rounds. So he was way ahead on the cards. And Connor Walker comes and produces a moment of drama. And sometimes those are the most thrilling moments in boxing, when someone causes the upset, if you like, in dramatic fashion. And congratulations to him. Great credit to him for sticking with it, because when you're up against someone with great boxing skills or very good boxing skills, and you've got power, you've always got a chance. You've just got to stay in the fight. And I thought that was it was very, very dramatic on the night, and it added to an amazing card. It was a great night in Nottingham. Obviously, I was watching it from the studio in Talk Sports. Very pleased for all of them. Very pleased for all of them. Harry Scarf will come back from it. I want to add, you're not going to ask me about this. I want to add, I've seen an interview this week with Johnny Fisher, because you caused all this problem. John Fisher and Johnny Fisher. Look at you looking at me like that. You
Well,
You ambushed me with Big John Fisher.
not really, no.
I know.
I gave you the opportunity to come on and John to come on to our interview. He did, and yeah, I'm not responsible for what comes out of John's mouth. It's up to
No,
him.
you're not at all. I'm not blaming you for that. I didn't feel ambushed at all. But I saw an interview with Johnny Fisher this week in Australia, where he was saying that I think he was referring to myself and maybe others, where he was saying that people had said it was a disgrace um, that he won the fight against Dave Allen. All I will say is the reason why I used that term was because for me, Dave Allen clearly won the fight from my judging perspective. It was a relatively close fight, but in my view, he lost the fight, and I do stand by that. And it's not a personal thing, and it's not an attack on Johnny. But for me, on the optics, it was a clear defeat by Dave Allen, and that's all I'll say. And I do think that a rematch between the pair would be fantastic. And I spoke to Dave Allen on Talk Sport the week before last, and it looks like that fight's going sideways, which is a shame because I think it's a big fight. And Dave Allen basically said he'd big dog Johnny Fisher if they met again, and he didn't want to he didn't want to beat Johnny Fisher in a fight in the UK. So it doesn't look like that fight's going to happen anytime soon. And I think it's a shame because I think it would generate huge numbers and massive interest and could probably headline at the O2 Arena.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it. I mean, it wasn't a given even immediately after the fight that would be the immediate fight for either one of them. But
it doesn't need to be. But I was just surprised that Dave Allen wasn't pushing for that contest next. But his thing was, look, Johnny's a friend of mine, and I don't want to derail his career at this point. He was talking like a very confident heavyweight fighter, and I think there's just a resonance to the rematch because there was so much controversy in the first one. I'm sure Johnny doesn't fear going in against Dave Allen again, and Dave Allen, as he stated on Talk Sport, I think I've got his number. But it rumbles on, and it only rumbles on in my mind because every time I bump into someone at the moment and talk boxing, they they talk about the disagreement with myself and Big John. Maybe we just put it to rest anyway.
I'm sure it will in due course. Gareth, let's move on to Eddie Hearn, and obviously I watched your segment with Spencer Oliver in response to Eddie Hearn's comments regarding Inoue, Akhmadaliev. So just for the record, Eddie Hearn has come out and said that he thinks that Inoue should be stripped or taken out the pound for pound list. He's making reference to Akhmadaliev and also the WBA situation that Eddie Hearn's got on record saying that he feels like Inoue will take the title as opposed to fight Akhmadaliev. I saw your segment with, as I said, with Spencer Oliver, and I mean, I kind of get the point that you were making when you said who is Akhmadaliev, but then obviously
No, we know who Akhmadaliev is. He's very talented.
I'm trying to make, but obviously you strongly kind of disagree with Hearn's comments regarding Inoue.
Yeah, of course. I disagree. There's no way he comes out of the pound for pound list. He just knocked out whatever it is, his 27th opponent in an unbeaten 29 fight career. I think it is. I may have got one of those details wrong there, but he's an extraordinary modern great. He's the monster for a reason. He's come up 4 weight divisions and looked amazing. He's been undisputed as well in 2 of those, I think 2 or 3 of those weight divisions. He's looking to move up to featherweight now. Nick Ball's being mentioned. That fight is on the lips of Turki Al-Sheikh. Nick Ball and Inoue. I get the fact that he could be stripped of that title, because where is he? The mandatory for the WBA, isn't he, Akhmadaliev? I get it. But at the moment, Inoue is probably going to move up to featherweight anyway, so it renders it defunct in many ways that they meet each other. I think Eddie's done a great job with Akhmadaliev for 5 years. He's brought him through, and he wants to get him his opportunities. He's doing exactly what he should be doing as his promoter. But Akhmadaliev will probably fight someone like Luis Neary, Marlon Tapales, Ramon Cardenas, Elijah Pierce. They're all those guys. Peter McGrail's in there at 9 as well. He'll fight for the vacant title at some point. We know he's the interim champion at the moment because Inoue is moving up to featherweight. The bigger debate is who's he going to fight at featherweight? Will it be Nick Ball? Will it be in Japan? Will it be in Riyadh season in Saudi? Will it be at Anfield? Who knows? But I think all Eddie was doing was shouting into the wind to make sure that his man is getting noise in the boxing firmament, to make sure that his man gets what he deserves, frankly, which is a shot at the world title.
Is there anything wrong in what Hearn's doing then?
No, not in terms of pushing Akhmadaliev out there and saying that if he wants to say that he's being avoided by Inoue, then fine. But he's not. He's been fighting through his mandatories. But take him out of the pound for pound list, I think that's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Inoue is 2 or 3 in the world in the pound for pound list. Eddie needs to check those beautiful new specs he's wearing and just have a good look at Inoue's record and look what he's producing. Yeah, he's had a couple of facile defenses. We know that Sam Goodman was injured and that he fought an opponent last Friday who probably was a little bit subpar, was late replacement. But come on, Eddie. Come on, stop it.
Gareth, I don't truly believe that Eddie Hearn genuinely thinks that Inoue should be taken out the pound for pound list. I don't believe he truly means that. I think he said it for effect, like you said, with the agenda to push Akhmadaliev.
Exactly.
I can't think Eddie generally sitting there thinking, like, if he was a neutral, looking at that situation, thinking that Inoue should be taken out of the pound for pound list, which is, like you said, it's pretty insane, to be fair.
Well, as Eddie admits himself, he's very deluded anyway, and you need to be to get somewhere in boxing. And I do like his line, but taking Inoue out of the pound for pound list is just nonsense. There you go. You got your headline.
Thank you. 26th of April now confirmed. What I expect to be the majority of the undercard has been confirmed. There could be other additions. We're not sure, 100%. But what's your thoughts actually on the undercard of?
Yeah, I've got it here.
April 26th.
Well, I really like the Chev Clark Vidal Riley fight. I think that's a real fun fight for us because Chev's got massive power. He's going to bring everything. He's going to bring heat. And Vidal Riley, we love Vidal Riley, but there's so much yet to come from him. And it's going to be a bull versus a matador fight. And, the matador being Vidal Riley is going to use his boxing skills. Listen, it's not the Chev hasn't got boxing skills, but he's got really great power. It's a fight I'm really looking forward to seeing. Had Anthony Yard on TalkSport on Saturday night. Obviously, a trilogy fight with Lyndon Arthur. He says he's still angry from that first defeat in lockdown to Lyndon. I think it was in lockdown, wasn't it? So looking forward to that. Liam Smith back for see what he's got left fight. Chris Billum-Smith. Terrific little card with obviously Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. finally over the line and a big money spinner, a big bloodline fight, a fight we're all looking forward to seeing. Chris Eubank Jr., for me, the favourite going into it. I liked the way Frank Smith explained the rehydration clause, or as he said, second day weigh-in clause. They believe that it won't be inauspiciously poor for Chris Eubank Jr. Ben's got the harder job, in my view, in the contest. And I think he'll be dangerous for 6 rounds, very dangerous, but he is a much smaller man stepping up.
Yeah, just going back to Frank Smith's comments and also Eddie Hearn's comments over this situation regarding the rehydration. I mean, Gareth, the truth is, Conor Benn and Chris Eubank were fighting for an IBF title on the 26th. This wouldn't even be an issue because this was actually part of what the IBF have always put in place anyway. I'm just using that as an example of it's not that outrageous that this has been done. And they've explained kind of where Conor's coming up in weight to kind of almost level it out in terms of that. But it's not ridiculous, is it?
Well, it's much better than the first time around for Chris Eubank Jr., where he had to make 157 pounds, not 160. And I think he was only allowed to go up by 7 pounds, up to 164. This is a 6 pound difference up to 170. He's got many more advantages this time around, even though it's 2.5 years after the first time it was signed. He's been knocked out in the interim by Liam Smith, and he's an older fighter, and he probably has slowed a little bit. He's still the favourite in this fight. I mean, I don't think the rehydration up to 170 pounds is going to be a massive telling factor in this fight. It may be if it goes 10 12 grueling rounds, but ultimately the man with all the work to do is Conor Benn in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's it's been a long time coming now. It's been a little bit of a dragged out process, but we are finally here with it, and it is on. And I expect it to sell out. I'm sure you do as well at Tottenham.
Well, it's 3 times the size of the fight it was 2 years ago. I mean, we will get 60,000 there. I'm sure we'll get fanfares and trumpets in the build-up. It'll be massively hyped. I'm sure the fathers, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. will be involved at some point. I hear there's going to be a press conference to get it all underway in the next fortnight, imminently. It'll be a great occasion on April the 26th at Spurs. It's a big fight. I think there'll be 60,000 there. Wouldn't surprise me if it crosses over into the mainstream and the casuals follow the event as well. It wouldn't surprise me for it to do 1 million in pay-per-view buys. It really wouldn't surprise me, because I think when the two men come together, Chris Eubank doesn't have to play the heel in this one as he normally does, have to play the villain, because Conor Benn is off the leash basically, and he wants to put it on Chris Eubank, and there's real ire there between the two men. I wouldn't say there's genuine hatred. I don't believe it's hatred, but I just think it's a desire to fulfill family bloodlines.
We know obviously Conor Benn has only had 2 fights in that kind of period from when that fight was supposed to have happened a couple of years ago, but Chris Eubank's not that far behind him. He's been relatively inactive, not as obviously much as Conor, but it's not a case of like Conor's had the 2 fights, but Chris Eubank has had loads more in that period as well.
Well, the one thing that for Conor is, like you say, neither of them. I think for Conor, there has been kind of visually maybe less activity, because both his fights under the Texas license were under a cloud of what was going on with those 2 tests for clomiphene, 2 positive tests for clomiphene in his system. So, and all of that kind of hubris that was around that at the time, and the discussion of it all, and his anger and his insistence that he was innocent. So he was dealing with other things, and they weren't 2 fights that were given massive fanfare. They were kind of long grassed fights, if you like. You're right in a sense. I was trying to think how many fights Chris Eubank has had in that time. Like you say, he's been equally inactive in a sense. I'm just having a look here. Do you know how many fights he's had in the interim? Let's have a look. Three, is it? One, two,
He had the two fights with Liam Smith. He had the fight um, in Saudi recently. I
with
don't,
Kamil Zaramata, where he did look, he did get caught a little bit in that fight. I mean, obviously, he knocked him down 4 times, I think it was, and won the vacant IBO middleweight title. I think it's fair to say he's been more active, certainly in terms of level of opponents. Two fights for Liam Smith. Come on, Liam Smith is
no,
very durable, very tough fighter.
I'm
You know,
not
top.
comparing the opponents in terms of what happened in that period, Gareth. I'm just talking about in terms of fights. Chris Eubank has had three fights in that period as opposed to Conor Benn, but you can't really compare kind of, he's had two of those fights with Liam Smith in there. So, that speaks for itself.
Yeah, exactly. Look, he had an active 2020. Look, for you look at Chris Eubank's career since Matt Korobov. Um, he hasn't been massively busy. He is looking for. He has been talked about as being matched with world champions, and the Canelo fight was mentioned at one point, and that apparently that was fairly close. Um, Look, we're here now. Um, he will be very confident going into this that all the work has to be done by Conor Benn. All the inroads are going to have to be made by Conor Benn because Eubank's the bit naturally a much bigger man. You've been around both of them. You know, in reality, Eubank is quite comfortable at super middleweight as well. Some of his best performances have been at super middleweight. So um, this doesn't. This is not a world title fight. It's a championship of each other. As Conor Benn said in a recent interview, it may have even been with you. I would take the prize fight over the world title right now. I take the earnings over the world title because I see plenty of world champions who've retired from boxing and they're not in the best position financially or for the future. So he's kind of grown up over the last 2.5 years as well. He's grown up in a big way. He's been through a lot emotionally. You can still see how he is when he has to talk about it. Affects him very badly. And he's there and he's a very passionate person. The weird thing is they both are very similar to the way their fathers were 30 years ago. Chris Eubank, cold and calculating. Nigel Benn, very passionate and emotional, and both bringing everything. And I think they will for this fight. It's a terrific sporting event, even though there are detractors of it. Some people are saying, "Oh, I don't want to see it. I don't care." I don't get it. I don't get it why people are saying those things. Some of them quite prominent saying those things. I just don't get it.
Sorry, excuse me. Well, listen, it's going to be a great build up. We're going to have 3 months of it pretty much as soon as that first press conference kicks off. So um, it's going to be great. It's going to be.
It is. It's going to be a great event. It will garner headlines. It will gather interest, and it will be a great occasion.
Let's just finish off by talking heavyweight boxing. Obviously, the dust has settled on Tyson Fury's video that he put out a couple of weeks ago now. I suppose the interesting question is now, what are the options for Anthony Joshua in his next fight? We know Bacoli is fighting in May on the same card as Haney and Ryan Garcia, obviously not each other in different fights, but now the Bacoli,
Against Afea Jegba, yeah.
yeah, against the Jegba.
Good fight. Both big punches. That'd be a
I
very,
think
very exciting fight. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
for Joshua now, I know Deontay Wilder, Turkey has mentioned Deontay Wilder. We know Wilder has kind of stated his intent to come back. We know he will be coming back. He hasn't fought, obviously, since the Zhang fight. What are the realistic options, though, for Joshua's next fight now? If we're taking Tyson Fury kind of out the equation,
I'm just checking on that May card. Is it Vegas, by the way?
it's New York, isn't it?
Um,
I thought it was New York.
Yeah, well, if it is, that's brilliant. I hope it's in New York. For a start, I'm going to go back to Tyson Fury for a moment. For a start, if the 17-second video is the end of Tyson Fury's career, uh, it's a damp squib in the way to end a career, because I think we need some fanfare. We need a big press conference. We need a dinner. We need something like that. I don't think it will be the end. I think he will fight Anthony Joshua. Um, I'd like to see Anthony Joshua fight Dillian White. I think that's to get him back into, um, if he can, winning ways against Dillian. I still think it's a good matchup. I still think they'll both bring it. There'll be lots of heat between it. I don't think Anthony Joshua is ready. If Martin Bakole beats Efe Ajegba, we could have a knockout chaos in Lagos event, or in the Congo, a big African fight night between those two. But where Anthony Joshua is right now, he's already stated his intentions to fight Tyson Fury and Daniel Dubois in 2025. Dubois will face everyone at the moment, as he said, but I think he'll be pursuing a rematch with Alexander Usyk if he beats Joseph Parker. Again, that's no foregone conclusion. Obviously, we're projecting forwards here, but I think for Anthony Joshua, the options are stay in the mix for a Tyson Fury fight. Don't lose again by knockout, because I think it renders that fight with Fury kind of irrelevant almost. I think we all want to see Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury in the ring together. It's an enormous commercial behemoth in the UK. It's an era-defining fight. Yes, it's not for belts, but it's still an era-defining fight between two British heavyweights who've been in the same kind of parabola, if you like, for 10 years. And it's a fight we've got to see, in my view. So, but at the same time, Anthony Joshua needs to stay active in some way. He won't want to wait a year, having been knocked out in 5 rounds and badly beaten by Daniel Dubois, wait a year to come back if that fight eventually emerges in August. So he's got to move forwards under the proviso in his mind that Tyson Fury is retired right now. Fury might wait till April to say, I'm coming back now, by which point he's maybe lost 4 months, 3 months. So I think someone like Dillian White is a good opponent in the meantime.
Sorry. It's interesting. We're nearly into February now. Like, this month's pretty much done. February is going to be kind of very decisive in the heavyweight division as well, with the card in Saudi happening.
Yeah.
So we're going to know a lot from that when we see the winner of Parker and Dubois,
And
especially
Kabayel and Zhang as
Rafael
well.
and
That's gonna create some scenarios, because you're looking at two other guys that you're looking at 4 heavyweights in the top 7 of the division there fighting each other. So it's very significant for what happens in the heavyweight division.
Such a great card.
It is under a month away.
Absolutely. Okay, Gareth, much appreciate your time. We'll see. There's a couple of shows on this week. Obviously, Matchroom have got their next gen show on Friday. Boxer have got Adam Azim on Saturday. So yeah, it's just non-stop now. It's great.
Busy times, and great time in boxing. Anyone that says anything different is completely wrong.
Gareth A.Davies, thank you very much for talking to IFLTV. We'll definitely catch up with you at some point again in the near future.